नमस्कार आणि येवकार तुमका आयच्या खाशेल्या कार्यावळीत. इनर व्हील क्लब ऑफ मापसा आणि प्रुडंट जोड पालवान तुमच्या मुखार घेऊन येता अस्तित्व सिरीज. आता अस्तित्व स्वताक सोदपाचें, अस्तित्व गोंयान गोंयकारपण सोदपाचें, अस्तित्व टेक्नॉलॉजी जशी जशी इवॉल्व जाता तशी तशी फुडल्या जनरेशना कडेन कनेक्ट आणि डिस्कनेक्ट जावपाची. हे सगळे डिलेमा आमी ह्या अस्तित्व सिरीजान घेतले. म्हणजे फॉर एक्झाम्पल रायट फ्रॉम वुमन एम्पावरमेंट टू टेक्नॉलॉजी, फॉर एक्झाम्पल सोलर म्हणा किंवा वेगवेगळे विषय, असे वेगवेगळे विषय आमी ह्या सिरीजान त्यांची उत्तरां सोदतले. आणि आयज जो आमी विषय पयलो घेता तो आसा ऑब्वियसली वी आर लिव्हिंग इन अ मिलेनियम जनरेशन. जेन्ना हांव म्हाज्या एज ग्रुपान जेन्ना हांव फुडल्या भुरग्याक पळयता, मिलेनियल जनरेशनाक पळयता, तेन्ना आय फील अ लिटल डिस्कनेक्टेड फ्रॉम देम. हे मिलेनियल जनरेशन कितें, ऑब्वियसली दॅट इज अ ह्यूज क्वेश्चन टू बी आन्सर्ड. बट आय वॉन्ट टू फोकस ऑन द नेक्स्ट मिलेनियल जनरेशन, जे फुडले जनरेशन आसा, जे सध्या रायट मे बी इन्फंट आसा, जस्ट बॉर्न आसा, ऑर मे बी 5 to 10 इयर्सच्या ब्रॅकेटान आसा. तांच्या बद्दल आमी चड जाणून घेतले आणि अंडरस्टँड करतले की तांची सायकी, तांचे चॅलेंजीस कितें आसा ते. फॉर मी, फॉर जस्ट टू अंडरस्टँड दीस सिच्युएशन, म्हाज्या बरोबर आसा डॉक्टर नंदिता डिसूजा ऑफ सेतू. डॉक्टर, वेलकम टू द शो.
Hi Rohit,
Okay,
and a
now
big thank you.
Now, Sethu doesn't require an introduction here, especially in Goa. If you are a parent, you might have always heard about it. काही महिन्या पयलीं हांवें दोतोराचो आणि विथ हर टीम इंटरव्यू केलो ऑन ओकेजन ऑफ ऑटिझम. दोतोर, I want to understand is obviously we see in this generation of ours or maybe yours also, this millennial generation is way ahead. आणि आता जेन्ना इफ यू वॉन्ट टू फोकस ऑन चाइल्ड केअर, स्पेशली जस्ट बॉर्न ऑर मे बी अ चाइल्ड हू इज इन टू द ब्रॅकेट ऑफ 5 to 10 years, what are the significant things that you should be looking forward to?
So thank you for focusing on child development. आमचो भुरग्याचो विकास हे सगळे महत्वपूर्ण विषय असतात म्हज्या मतान. Now what we say is that if a country wants prosperity, we need to invest in its children.
Yeah.
आणि असे रिसर्च बी आसा की सपोज आमी $1 चो खर्च करता ऑन चाइल्ड डेव्हलपमेंट, जे रिटर्न आमकां मेळटा इट इज इक्वल टू $13. So if we invest in child development, we can be assured of the prosperity of our country. Now, in child development, the पहिले जे 1000 दीस आसा, first 1000 days म्हणजे pregnancy and the first 2 years, these 1000 days are the most important because that's when the baby's brain grows the most. 80% of the brain growth happens in the first 2 years of life. म्हणटच एक ऑपॉर्च्युनिटी, एक संधी मेळटा आमकां भुरग्याचो वाड आनी विकासाचेर आमी कितें केल्यार ताजो प्रभाव खूब जावपाक शकता सर.
हे चाइल्ड डेव्हलपमेंट तुम्ही म्हटले की राईट फ्रॉम द प्रेग्नन्सी इट स्टार्ट.
So, as I said, right from conception, म्हणजे आवय गुरवार जातात तेन्नासान आमी काळजी घेवपाक जाय. And of course, the mother has to take a lot of rest and care, good nutrition, her mental health to make sure that she's not under too much of stress, all the vaccinations, prevention of infection, and so on. And the baby's brain has already started developing. So for healthy brain development, we need a few things. So one is a safe environment. जे वातावरण आसा सुरक्षित आसपाक जाय, मोगाळ आसपाक जाय, पोषण मेळपाक जाय भुरग्याक, as well as stimulation, जे आमी उर्बा म्हणटा, both from the parents as well as the other family members. Suppose भुरग्याक हे मेळना जाल्यार, स्पेशली इन अर्ली डेव्हलपमेंट, ताजे परिणाम जे आसा खूब वायट आसा. कित्याक we know that learning problems, भुरग्याक शिकपाक त्रास जाता. Many of these children drop out. If they drop out, that means their careers are going to get affected. And their well-being, not only of themselves, but also their families and the society also. Which is why we need to take care of this early time in life.
See, we always say that children need to develop well. आणि म्हाका आवर्जून विचारपाचें दिसता की how do we pay attention to all this special things maybe जे आमी usually ignore करता. आता for example we live mostly in a nuclear family where the both the parents are working. एकदा भुरगो घरा कडेन जाणट्यां कडेन आसता किंवा भुरगो खंय तरी क्रॅशान आसता. Then this is a very challenging situation for a nuclear family parent.
So as you said, Rohit, it's not easy. पण आमकां खबर आसा आतां आमकां खबर आसा कितें कितें करपाचें so let's focus on that so we spoke about pregnancy okay and the nutrition of the mother is very very important then the nutrition of the child breastfeeding is the best start for every baby आणि WHO World Health Organization आणि कितें सांगला की पहिले वरान सपोज भुरगे जन्म घेता पहिले वरान which is called the golden hour तेन्ना सन breastfeeding शुरू करपाक जाय and the babies know even how to latch on, how to suckle. That's the amazing thing. They don't need to be taught. It's a reflex. मागीर पहिले 6 महिने फक्त breastfeeding आचेर आमी फोकस करपाक जाय एक्सक्लुसिव breastfeeding आणि 6 महिन्याचे उपरांत बाकीचे for example pears आणि ragi all these things can be started when breastfeeding up to 2 years आवय continue करपाक जाय so that's very important because I don't know if many people are aware पूण 40% of the world's under 5 malnourished children who are undernourished live in India. So we contribute 40% of the world malnutrition under 5 years. आणि suppose भुरग्याचे मेंदूवाक पोषण मेळना जाल्यार these children are at risk of long-term developmental problems. So they say in the world, in low and middle income countries, there are 250 million children who are at risk for developmental delay because of nutrition.
Okay.
So if we can start by making sure the mother's nutrition is taken care of, baby is best breastfed, good complementary feeding, that's the first kind of thing which we can all do.
Important is socializing. जे आम्ही बरेचदा आमकां एक्सपिरियन्स जाता अशा टायमार भुरगो इज नॉट बीन सोशलायझींग भुरग्याक शिकपाचो तो वेळ आसता तुमी खंय तरी कन्फायन स्पेसानूच उरता मे बी तोच टीव्ही तोच मोबायल थंयच्याच तितूर उरता अशें जेन्ना आमकां चॅलेंजीस फेस करचे पडटा तेन्ना हाव डू यू सी थिंग्स बेसिकली एस्पेशली इन द वर्ल्ड दॅट वी आर लिव्हिंग टुडे
But सारकें सांगलें रोहित, this pandemic has been the biggest stress that we have faced in this lifetime. आणि आमकां पहिले दिसले एका म्हयन्यान सोंपतले 6 म्हयने सोंपतले आतां it's more than 18 months and we are still in it. So खूब भुरगीं आसा जे पॅन्डेमिकान जल्म घेतल्या and they have not really been out and mixed with others like we would take for granted with other children. So it has hit child development very very badly because children are social beings. भुरग्याक म्हणजे they need friends, भायर वचपाक जाय, खेळपाक जाय, दुसऱ्या कडेन मिक्सअप जावपाक जाय आणि भुरगीं कशी शिकतात चड करून दुसऱ्याक पळोवन दुसऱ्या कडेन इंटरॅक्ट करून. So when we are saying social distancing, you cannot meet others, that definitely will have an impact on child development and especially their language development.
Correct.
Okay. The other thing is that children are spending a lot of time in front of screens. पहिले आमी म्हणटाले तांकां स्क्रीनार फुडें बसय नाका पूण आतां बसपाक जाय कित्याक ऑनलायन क्लासीस
मॅन्डेटरी जाला.
Correct. So the increase in screen time also can cause problems. So आमी कितें करपाक जाय, of course we can't tell them the older ones not to attend classes, पूण जाता तितले स्क्रीन टायम आमी कमी करपाक जाय आणि जे आमी ग्रीन टायम म्हणटा म्हणजे भायर वचपाचे spend time even if you have a garden in the balcony to take children there because when they are outdoors when they are with other people that's when they learn best because आमच्यानी जाता तितले आमी दुसऱ्या कडेन मिक्सअप जावपाची चान्स तांकां दिवपा जाय. So even within the family with other brothers and sisters maybe or with the parents, and one good thing which has happened is that parents have been able to spend more time with their children.
Correct.
Both in interacting as well as in observing them. So before parents used to be working out of the home, now with work from home, though it's tough for them, but it also gives them a chance to be with their children and
spend
observe
time with the family, correct,
and interact with them. So though we don't know how long this pandemic will last, I think we in our homes can do as much as we can to give children these opportunities. And we don't need to buy fancy toys. It is the daily activities that we do.
That matters.
जे आमी सद्दां करता that we have to do. भुरग्याक नाणोयतात तेन्ना, खावयतात तेन्ना, when we are, changing their clothes, that's the time we can interact with them and listen to them and talk to them.
Doctor, I want to understand is, the pandemic was म्हटलं जाल्यार we had a lot of stress. तुम्ही म्हटलं, working from home was also a stress. Working itself is a stress sometimes, but also this was a new thing for us. So we adults can understand this stress. Now भुरग्यांचे how do you evaluate? म्हणजे तुमच्याकडे बरेच केसी आयले असतले, लोकांनी रिफर केले असतले, तुम्ही पळयला असतले in this situation कि a child is also coping to a pandemic. We don't understand this. Wearing a mask, sanitizing, taking care, all this certain nitty-gritties. आमका ते किटकिट दिसता mask घालप and all this. But या भुरग्यांकडे पळोवन, is it not a stress for them, and how good are they managing? This is completely something surprising to understand itself.
Right. So that's a very important point you brought up. आणि किती असा जे आता स्ट्रेस आम्ही फेस केल्यार इतली म्हयने आता सुरू म्हणजे चालू असा म्हणून इट्स नाव बिकम व्हॉट वी कॉल टॉक्सिक स्ट्रेस. So it has the chance or the danger of actually changing the wiring of children's brains because children are being exposed to this for such a long time. Now, what can we do in a situation like this? It's very important first to, as I said, spend time with children, explain to them, okay, in ways that they understand. So through telling them stories, through reassuring them, through appreciating what they are doing. आता suppose तुवें भुरग्याक सांगला की आत धुवपाक जाय आनी भुरग्यान केलें तशें तांकां मातशें शाबाशी मेळपाक जाय. You must tell them, oh, you remember to wash your hands, or you're putting on your mask, right? So appreciating what they're doing is important, as well as explaining to them what's happening, but reassuring them that you will always be there. आता खूप फावटी कितें जाता टीव्ही चालूच आसा आनी सगळे म्हणजे कितले लोक मेले खुंयसर, it's all kind of one disaster after the other. So that should be avoided. कित्याक भुरग्याक कितें दिसता की it's happening again and again and again. It's the same thing which is shown many times, but
the child doesn't understand. Correct.
Yes. So avoid exposing them to too much of news on the TV. We can explain to them what, like in simple ways, what is happening, just to make sure that we're not hiding from them also. But over kind of exposure is not good. One thing which I'd like to talk about, Rohit, because we are seeing a lot of this, is the social development of children. हांवें सांगलें तशें भुरगीं दुसरे कडेन मिक्सअप जावपाक जाय आनी हे पॅन्डेमिकान तो चान्स कमी जाल्ले आसा. ओके, आतां कित्याक आमी म्हणटा समाजीकरण, सोशल कम्युनिकेशन, संवाद कित्याक इम्पॉर्टंट आसा भुरग्याक? बिकॉज दिस इज द वे दे मेक सेन्स ऑफ देयर वर्ल्ड. आतां जे तांचे वातावरण आसा ते म्हणजे समजपाक, फॉर देयर ब्रेन्स टू डेव्हलप, that social interaction is very important. आणि ते social interaction जे आम्ही समाजीकरण म्हणतात तातून भुरग्याचो भाषाचो विकास बी that's very important. खूप फावटी आवय बापाय कितें दिसता की भुरगे उलोवपाक जाय, रायट? आनी भुरगीं केन्ना उलयता? आफ्टर अ इयर. म्हणटच ती आफ्टर अ इयर, एक वर्स जावन सपोज भुरगीं उलोयना जाल्यार तेन्ना तांकां कळटा, ओ देयर इज सम प्रॉब्लम. ओके, आनी खूब फावटी लोक म्हणटा ना उलयतलो, चेडे लेट उलयता, अशें तांकां सांगून आनीक लेट जाता. सो टू प्रिव्हेंट दिस डिले, पेरेंट्स शुड बी अवेअर ऑफ अर्ली सोशल कम्युनिकेशन. उलोयचे पयलीं पासून भुरगीं संवाद करता, भुरगे म्हणजे आमचे कडेन इंटरॅक्ट करता. सो पेरेंट्स अँड अदर फॅमिली मेंबर्स नीड टू बी अवेअर ऑफ दिस, अँड दिस स्टार्ट्स राईट फ्रॉम द मोमेंट ऑफ बर्थ. भुरगे म्हणजे जन्माक येता तेन्ना फ्रॉम दी आय कॉन्टॅक्ट, म्हणजे भुरग्या आवयचे दोळ्यान या बापायच्या दोळ्यान पळयता, ओके, त्याच्या उपरांत भुरगीं आसूंक लागता, वॉट वी कॉल द सोशल स्माईल. दीस शूड हॅपन इन द फर्स्ट 6 months. मागीर जे आमी वोकल टेनिस म्हणटा, म्हणटच आवय कितें म्हणटा जाल्यार भुरगें आयकता पळयता आनी मागीर आपूण कितें हळू अशें बाबा अशें कितें म्हणटात ओके एज इफ इट्स दे आर लायक रिस्पॉन्डिंग आनी मागीर भुरगें ओगे जाता तेन्ना परत आवय कितें म्हणटा सो दॅट इज लायक अ वोकल टेनिस volley and serve okay so it's like serving you return that is very important आणि सपोज ते मेळना जाल्यार आवय बापाय ऑब्जर्व करिना जाल्यार that should be an early indicator that there is a problem in social communication okay and after that there are other things like imitation भुरगीं नक्कल करपाक खूब बरे असतात okay so even it's been shown just kind of sticking your tongue out even little babies can imitate that then our actions okay the way we move all these things little children imitate and that is also social communication कित्याक आमकां पळोवन ती नक्कल करतात तेन्ना ती शिकतात
करेक्ट
okay so it's not only speech this is something that I would like to emphasize
ओके डॉक्टर आय जस्ट वॉन्ट टू अंडरस्टँड इज वॉट आत्ता तुम्ही जे हे सगळें सांगलें पळय आय कॉन्टॅक्ट म्हणा स्माईल म्हणा मागीर त्याच्यानंतर इमिटेटिंग ऑल दीस थिंग्स आर कायंड ऑफ माइलस्टोन इन अ चाइल्ड्स ग्रोथ when it comes to all those things so a parent basically should always look at these signs
yes
okay आणि समजा if there is a little problem area or such there is some challenge how can the parent and more importantly how can the entire family take care of म्हणजे भुरग्याचे social communication वाढचे घरातल्यान especially in the first maybe 1 or 2 years जेन्ना भुरगो चडसो घरान असता भायर वचप खूब कमी असता त्या टायमार how do you manage
right yes it's important this is picked up early because lots can be done okay and I just like to mention a couple of other milestones for example pointing which is very important and फक्त human beings point
okay
no other animal points
correct
आणि आम्ही जे बोटांनी दाखयतात तेन्ना शिकोय नासतना भुरग्याक खबर आसा की पयस पळोवपाक जाय बोटाक पळोवपाची गरज म्हणजे बोट पळोवन कांयच कळना पयस पळोवपाक जाय so that awareness is something very natural but when there are social communication delays many children don't point as well as they don't understand it's hard for them to look where someone is pointing they will look at the finger as well as when they make sounds sometimes children may not speak but they make some sounds but very often those sounds are not to the person they are saying it to themselves okay so these are other important social communication milestones which should not be missed now once parents notice this observe parents are experts of their children आवय बापूय चड time spend करता आपल्या भुरग्या कडेन म्हणटच they are the best observers of their children and suppose they pick up these delays okay what they should do is seek the help of maybe a pediatrician or the balwadi teacher someone who works with their children or who understands child development and inform them about this there are certain developmental checklists जे आमी करपाक जाता to know whether really this is a problem in the child's development or maybe parent has missed it right or the child has not been given the exposure right and then lots can be done to help the child to develop their social communication okay now delay in social communication can also be a sign of early autism and that's why one of the reasons it should not be missed it's not that every child who has social communication delay will have autism not at all but since there is treatment available for these conditions it should not be missed कित्याक आमी कितें म्हणटा भाषा विकास जे आसा समाजीकरण जे आसा तातून आनी लिटरसी शिकप there is a big connection language and literacy go together
okay
so many children who have language delays will also find it hard to learn to read and write so we must pick it up early so that we with early intervention जे शीघ्र उपचार आसा ते दिवन भुरग्याचे जे ब्रेनान जे नेटवर्क्स आसा जे कनेक्शन्स आसा ते आमी बरे घट करपाक जातले
ओके बरेचदा आम्ही लास्ट टाइम उलयलो तेन्ना यू देर इज अ टर्म रिफर्ड एज ASD वी कॉल इट सम रेड फ्लॅग सो म्हाका मातसो बरे व्ह्युअर्स म्हाजे इंटरेस्टेड आसले नो अबाउट दिस टेक्निकल टर्म वॉट इज ASD बेसिकली.
Right. So ASD, the full form is Autism Spectrum Disorder. आता ऑटिझम म्हणजे कितें आमकां खबर आसा की ब्रेनाचे डेव्हलपमेंटान केन्ना केन्ना दे कॅन बी सम कायंड ऑफ चेंजेस which affect social communication. दुसऱ्या कडेन मिक्सअप जावप, दुसऱ्या कडेन उलोवप, okay, as well as certain behaviors can be seen. So when we have this combination of social interaction, social communication difficulties with some behavior difficulties like having very restricted interests, having repetitive behaviors, parat burge tets karta. For example, it may be flapping, it may be spinning, parat tets pong sotta. They very often like to watch movement of something like the wheels of the car or the fan, okay, or they may repeat something also again and again, like may ask the same question or say the same word again and again, okay, with some what we call sensory difficulties. Sensory difficulties means they have either they are too sensitive to certain maybe sounds or any textures, or they may be undersensitive to again these different sensations. So when we see this pattern, we call it autism.
Okay.
And very often these children are very bright. So parents are कितें दिसता पूण म्हजे भुरगे ABC म्हणटा, म्हजे भुरगे शेप्स पळयता तेन्ना शेप्साचे नांव सांगता. ओके, म्हजे भुरगे म्हणजे युट्यूबसान नर्सरी रायम शिकला, रायट. सो माय चायल्ड इज स्पीकिंग, पूण कम्युनिकेशन ना. ते भुरग्याक कितें खावपाक जाय जाल्यार या बाथरुमान वचपाक जाय जाल्यार ते भुरगे सांगूंक जायना. Okay, so that is something parents should be aware of. Just speaking does not mean that your child's social communication is normal. Your child should be able to use those words if they're meaningful. Your child is saying a rhyme on banana or something, or can name the picture of a banana, but cannot say I want a banana when they want a banana. There is some problem over there.
Okay.
So that is something parents should be aware of. And the red flags of autism, which we say, as I said, we must try and diagnose it as early as possible, because lots can be done. Karung zata. So by 6 months, if your child is not having big smiles, if your child has poor eye contact, that is one red flag. By 9 months, that back and forth, जे भुरगे कितें साउंड करता तेन्ना आवय परत तेच करता जाल्यार भुरगे मागीर आनी कितें करता, म्हणजे एक टेनिस, वोकल टेनिस जे हांवें सांगलें, that should be there by 9 months.
Okay.
By 1 year the child must point. फक्त आपल्याक कितें जाय जाल्यार न्ही, पूण दाखोवपाक. सपोज आतां म्हणजे एक बस दिसता जाल्यार या एक म्हणजे जानवर दिसता जाल्यार भुरगे पॉइंट करता आनी मागीर फाटल्यान पळयता पळोवपाक, म्हणजे बापूय या कोण आपल्या कडेन ते पळयता जाल्यार. That's what we call joint attention. So by 1 year that must be there. Not responding to name call. आपयता तेन्ना भुरगे पळयना. ओके, पूण खूब फावटी कितें आसा, भुरग्याक आयकूंक जाता. It's not a hearing problem, because the parents say when we shake a bottle where there's chips which the child likes, the child immediately turns.
Reacts.
But when we call, the child does not look. Okay, so by 1 year that is a red flag. By 16 months, if your child is not saying single words, 16 महिन्यापासून एक शब्द म्हणना जाल्यार, and by 2 years not using 2-word phrases like mummy, di, or bullseye. Okay, and at any time if the child has lost skills, म्हणटच भुरगे suppose उलोवंक लागला या bye bye म्हणूंक लागला या any other skill, but now is not doing that.
Okay.
At any age, that is also a very major red flag. So when parents notice any of these red flags, they should not get scared, okay, but they should take some action so that the child can be helped.
And doctor, I just want to ask you is you mentioned that early intervention can help. Maybe my last question, I'd like to a little elaborate, maybe in brief, how this intervention can help you get things back on track.
Right. So let me talk about early intervention for social communication. Okay, let me not focus on autism, but let's just talk about
In
social
general, yeah.
communication. I compare it to like a 3-layer cake. आम्ही केक करता तेन्ना layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. Layer 1 आम्ही कितें करपाक जाय? We have to create a learning moment in the home. So daily activities is a great way जे आवय बापायक सद्दां करपाक जाय. Correct? Maybe it could be they have to feed the child, or they have to, kind of take the child for a bath. Okay, so in these daily activities, it could be putting the clothes to wash. भुरग्याक आमी एक रोल दिवपाक जाय. Let them involve with that. आणि भुरगे कितें करतात तेजेर आमी कॉमेंट करता. So suppose the child is, putting the clothes in the basket. Oh wow, तुवें pant काडून basketan घातल्या. So like the running commentary which you see on the
Sports channel or what?
Yes, the parent comments and has to face the child, so that the parent is following the child's lead. So that's the first layer, create learning moments in daily activities. Second is to make it fun. Okay, so a parent has to use a lot of expression. For example, if the child is putting something and it falls, you would say, wow, and oh, great. So it has to be very animated and energetic, as well as taking turns. So when your child is doing something, say that, let's just take the same thing of putting the clothes in the basket. So, okay, you put, now it's daddy's turn. Okay, and now it's Manoj's turn. Now it's daddy's turn. So that taking turns has that tennis kind of body.
So interactive basically.
In nature. And to use gestures. आमी आता वरे use करपाक जाय भुरग्याक समजपाक. म्हणटा suppose हांव दी म्हणटा जाल्यार म्हजो हात भायर येवपाक जाय. Suppose हांव नाका म्हणटा जाल्यार तोकली हालोवपाक जाय. So it's very important to use gestures also, because that the child can see. And then the third layer is to expand whatever your child is doing. आता suppose भुरगे बसून खेळटा जाल्यार आनी ते stacking rings आसात. हांव ते ring घेवन आनी कितें करपाक जाय? टोपी, I can pretend it's a hat, or I can pretend it is a bangle, or I can turn it round and say, oh wow. So whatever the child is playing with, I take it a little further. I do something little different and see if my child now imitates me. Okay, so for example, if the child is throwing the ball, I will now bounce the ball and throw it. Or if the child is throwing the ball, maybe I will kick the ball. And now see if the child is imitating me. And भुरगे आपूण करूंक लागता तेन्ना मागीर हांव मातशें फाटी रावंक सोदता. So now the child is doing that. At the same time, I have to keep on making it fun. Keep on following the child. It has to be fun. खूब फावटी आवय बापूय कितें करता, आमी शिकयता. What color is this? How many wheels does a truck have? It's not, playing is not that. Playing is going with the child. भुरगे लीडान आसा आनी आमी फॉलो करता. भुरगे कितें करता ते आमी कॉपी करता. मागीर आमी कितें चेंज करता. आमी पळयता भुरगे ते आमचे कॉपी करता जाल्यार. Okay, and we go that way. As far as possible, we should follow the child. Then the child will enjoy it. But if we make it into one teaching session, I'm going to teach you all the names of these objects, or I'm going to teach you colors or shapes, then the child is going to go away and do their own thing. So yeah, social interaction has to be during daily activities with the child in the lead and the parent commenting on what the child is doing and then following the child and changing it slightly.
I think Dr. Nandita, it's always pleasure to interact with you, more importantly in person, and I think the kind of energy that you get in, I don't know whether you get this energy from your surrounding, or whether it is the child or the children that come to you to visit. I still have a doubt on that. More importantly, जसे दोतोरान म्हटले की अंडरस्टँडिंग इज व्हेरी व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट. फर्स्ट 1000 days आर व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट, रायट फ्रॉम द प्रेग्नन्सी ते भुरग्याचे जन्म आनी ताच्या नंतर ताचे डेव्हलपमेंट जे आसा ते इम्पॉर्टंट आसा. वेगवेगळे जे मायलस्टोन्स आसा ताज्या बद्दलूय दोतोरान आमकां सांगले की वॉट यू शूड बी लुकींग फॉर. whether it is eye contact, smiling, or all those things that we have mentioned. एक इम्पॉर्टंट गजाल असा की ह्या पॅन्डेमिकान आमकां खूब कितें कितें शिकयलें. आय थिंक आनी एक गजाल जी आमकां आत्मसात करपाक जाय इज वेन यू इंटरॅक्ट विथ अ चायल्ड यू हॅव टू बी अ चायल्ड. You can't be an adult and play with the child. So I think this is something that I will take back from this interview. अस्तित्व सिरीजच्या माध्यमांतल्यान आमी जशें तुमकां म्हटलें वेगवेगळे सामाजीक जे विशय आसा ते तुमच्या मुखार घेवन येतले. हो आमचो असलो पयलो विशय. हाज्या नंतर वेगवेगळे विशय घेवन येतले ते पळयत रावात तुमी ही आमची ब्रँड न्यू अस्तित्व सिरीज जी आमी हाडटा इनर व्हील क्लब ऑफ म्हापसा in association with Prudent. Dr. Nandita, thank you very much for joining and sparing your valuable time and again being like a kid on this very first episode of mine.
Thank you, Rohit. It's always been my pleasure to interact with you, and my grateful thanks to Inner Wheel Club of Mapusa as well as to Prudent Media. And keep rocking.
आम्ही परत भेटले फुडल्या एपिसोडान. तोपर्यंत पळयत रावात Prudent.